Hello, once again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. It's the MLK weekend, pre-weekend. Lots going on here. We're recording this show a few days before. Because we're taking some time out with our families and all of the above. But big shout out to Rich Valdez, who's always there when we do the live show, but he's not there tonight. A good friend, none other than Shawn Armour, is here in the building right now. Well, virtually in the building. Shawn, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. So
when I say
Shawn,
you guys, I mean you and all your listeners.
Yeah. Shawn could be. You can follow him on Twitter. True_Armor, TRU_ARMOR. Always good to have a friend in the room. Do some housekeeping really quick. I want to shout out our affiliates that play the show. We want to say thank you to the people who listen to the podcast. We want to say thank you, and thank you for downloading the podcast. Big shout out to our home station, 1240 AM WGBB, Long Island, New York, Merrick, New York, not too far from home. Shawn, since the last time we talked, it was pre-2019. You had dropped some jewels on me. I just want to let you know that we were talking resolutions and everything else like that. I recorded a couple of other pods leading up to the new year. And I want to let you know I've added vegetables to the daily intake. Feeling a lot better, feeling energized, not feeling sluggish. I want to say thank you, my friend.
Oh, I'm happy to help. Happy to help.
Big shout out to our friends from the 40-day turn-up. We'll be posting some of this stuff in the next, I would say, 2 weeks or so on the website, latenightparents.com. Meal guidelines.
Nice. That's super helpful.
Just to help people out there, because I'm telling you, just the overall consumption of fast food and processed foods and everything else like that.
Right.
There was a women's group that is involved in this 40-day turn-up. I happen to be helping support the women's group because they needed an AV tech, right, to set up the stuff. So I was there and I was able to grab some of the literature. So really happy about that. So we're going to go.
Yeah, good practices have no gender. So
that's
true.
Good
job.
True. It was a Saturday morning. It was 9 a.m. I was told what assignment I was covering. I covered the assignment and was able to pull some jewels, and I tied what you had told me along with some of these other people had told me. And I said, okay, it's time to change it up because approaching 50 closely, it gets closer and closer by the day.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to let everyone know today's show, it's a hybrid show, a little bit of live, and we have some recorded. Segment 1 is from Shawn Armour. We're going to talk a little politics as usual. Second segment is going to be Susan Pepka, the author of Gus Fortunate's Misfortunate. Susan takes the young readers on an exciting journey as they follow an ordinary mouse named Gus on a quest to find a way to turn his very bad day into a hopeful new beginning. And then in segment 3, I have a tribute I did last year to Dr. King, how Dr. King would see today's politics,
development,
today's world.
Right.
So I have a brief interpretation of that. But let's get into it, Shawn. As usual, always happy to have you. Dude, there's a couple of things going on. I think the last time we talked, there was a shutdown. Dude, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's still shut down. I would love to hear your take. I'm just going to say this much. At this point, all I care about are the government workers that aren't paid and the Coast Guard that's not paid. I'm hoping there can be some type of resolution for them.
Yeah, but, like I mentioned the last time on your show, this is America. No one should be working for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you furlough people, and then it gets bad at the highest levels. So then they order you back to work for free. It's so ridiculously un-American. No one should be for that. And there should be a ladder. They shouldn't be able to sit like stubborn children, with their arms folded on different sides of the room, right? There should be a ladder. Like, I don't know if you play video games, but I play Fortnite. Everybody plays Fortnite. And the thing about Fortnite is, if it was a battle royale and you could just hang out wherever you were, nothing would ever get done, and that's what's going on, right? So we need the equivalent of the shrinking circle, which pushes people together, which forces engagement, right? So you will eventually get down to, out of 100 people, the battle royale winner, right? The one guy, because that circle will eventually shrink down to 3 feet, and you have to be in it or you die outside of it. And this is where we are with this shutdown. The people in power aren't feeling this. They're still getting checks and superb health care and, the best protection from our armed forces, as well as, the civilian men and women, Secret Service, FBI, U.S. Marshals, all those people doing, at that level, they are the AAA specialists. They're losing nothing. Meanwhile, you have people who work in, like, the U.S. parks who, could very well be your neighbor because there are parks in New York City, right? The Ashton Memorial is a federal park down there. I want to say, I'm about to say Chambers Street, but it's not. It's I forgot what street it's on, but in Lower Manhattan. So from there to the people who take care of the grounds of the fort under the Golden Gate Bridge out in California, it's just wrong on so many levels. And I think it's going to have serious implications down the road for the election. I don't see how either one of these people, because Nancy Pelosi has issues already, so that shows cracks in the Democratic Party. And the Republicans are just going along to get along, and that looks bad as well. I think Steve King was a really good distraction for them because they didn't have to talk about this thing, and they got to condemn Steve King for racial statements. Like, what did he say? What's so wrong about being a white supremacist? When did that get a bad name?
Yeah, a white nationalist. But this isn't the first time with Steve King.
No, it isn't.
This is the norm.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Tell me your take on. Would it be an MLK weekend?
Right.
And this type of talk. Why wasn't he censured?
Well, they look at censure as a big deal, like a serious deal. So they'd rather just go out in front of the press corps and go, climb out on that limb and say that racism is bad. Who's going to be out there going, yeah, I totally agree with Steve King. Nobody. So everybody gets to grandstand these messages and do nothing. And this is essentially what that place has become. They've been kicking cans down the road and, avoiding the real issues, and here we are, a government shutdown. So, and while that's going on, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You can't handle Steve King, who obviously should not be in Congress, right? His views are antithetical to what we as modern Americans are looking for, right? I mean, we stand against it. Like this Charlottesville thing with their march, and you get to say it, but the vast majority of Americans are not for this nonsense. And here we are, and it serves as a distraction. And meanwhile, this government shutdown is gonna really mess with people's lives. I mean, people have to pay rent. And
people have to pay rent. I mean, I think we talked about last time. I think I pulled some information from the Pew Research Center, and it said 68% of Americans. I forgot the age bracket.
Right.
So I don't know if it was 25 to 54 or 35 and above, but it stated that 68% of Americans have less than $500 in the bank. So we are a world that is living check to check.
And it creeps into your love life too, because when money becomes a problem in relationships break up, and then people, it's a relationship killer. If it's one more thing that the average couple, doesn't need. If you're a 2-income household and all of a sudden you're a 1-income household, and there were problems before, so all these repercussions. Yeah, exactly. So all these things echo, sort of like ripples out to all aspects of your life, and the people who really cause you these problems are gonna, they're not even gonna handle Stephen King. They're gonna grandstand around saying how bad what he said is. We're sort of talking about two topics now. About what he said was, while they could censure him and, in this shutdown and put people back to work, and people are not going to get reimbursed money or time or any of this, and you're ordering people back to work for free. You know what I mean? That just sounds like what the communists would do if you really want to get into it. I mean, capitalism is what we're founded on, and that means a day's work for a day's pay. So if they're calling you in, how are they not paying you?
I don't know.
I think I've got to be a lawyer and put that on my bucket list.
The Coast Guard, the only form of the military that is not being paid.
I didn't hear that. That's crazy. That's outrageous.
We could rehash where we sat last time. We talked about the ripple effect. We talked about the mom who's now divorced, and she's waiting on the child support from the ex-husband who's the government worker, who's now the furloughed government worker, who is depending on this to live.
Right. I mean, this is the juggling act, right? I hate to say it, but this is essentially being a good citizen is doing, keeping the lights on, going to work, following whatever dream you have, whether it's college or starting a business or, working every day as you go about your life, however you carry your life out. When you essentially shove people off their pivot. You know what I mean? When you push people off balance over something that could be avoided. I get rationing in times of stress, right, of like war and things like this. But this doesn't seem to be necessary. And so many people are suffering. What did they say, 800,000 people? I don't know. I don't see why the Dems don't get punished for this and the
I think equally, both sides will feel the wrath.
You think so?
Will feel the wrath. So, like, if you're an independent candidate, I think now is your time.
See, I agree with that. I agree with that because I've been telling a friend of mine who ran for office and won, but I won't say anything. But we were talking before he ran, like maybe 3 years before he ran, about the climate and how the climate was getting worse and worse and worse. And I told him, you know, an average person with no political background could really run and win because people on all sides are tired of whatever's going on here. And I didn't think it would be Donald Trump. Like a billionaire from the richest street in the world would be your, defender of the common man. By the way, I really like that Clemson lunch you put on at the White House. I thought that was hysterical. Oh my God, cold burgers on silver platters. It's enigmatic of what is going on. It's like, $50,000 toilet seats. The whole place just doesn't make any sense. It's like a carnival. And it's like, hey, attention over here. It's like people are always waving the flag to get you to look at something. But meanwhile, what's going on behind the curtain, whenever it's shown, we're all just kind of like, just jaws are flat and agape with like the ridiculousness of it. Sometimes it's just awe-inspiring, right? Like we'll go to the moon and we're like, wow, we did this, and we take pride in it. We'll build the Panama Canal. We'll take pride in it. We'll span, the Verrazanos, which was, I think, at one point the largest span, right? And we're like all impressed by that. Build the Brooklyn Bridge, in 1886. Really impressed by that. And then we do stuff like the $10,000 toilet seat. It's like you wonder how the places. I mean, come on. When is this shutdown going to end? We were talking in a chat room, and one of our friends thought it was going to end 10 days ago. And that's. I guess that's over under. If you were a betting person, since there's more my
effort
money's
being
on
put
February
on legalizing. There's more effort on legalizing sports gambling than there is on the shutdown.
Because that's being driven by money, right? And the places, one of the worst things I've ever heard an American president say was said by Ronald Reagan when he said, the business of America is business. Because even as a young man, when I heard that, I knew that the American business model has always been to not want to do right by the workers. You know what I mean? And not minding putting bad stuff in like lakes and streams and eventually poisoning citizens. So when he said that, which is wrong, by the way, like the business of America is not business. I think it's like the pursuit of happiness. Whatever your personal happiness is, the founder said, go pursue that. And we struggle with that. But now it's the whole place is just a bit wacky. And I think it's because there's people with huge pockets throw their weight around, and the ground quakes when they do so. And, that's essentially it. The ground quakes when they move their money. There are going to be people going without food in the welfare programs. That's just wrong. They're not all bums. They're like children here who are in first and second grade. I mean, I wonder where the empathy is for the American citizen versus all the empathy we have for all these other people outside of our shores, right? We want to help people with hurricanes and tornadoes and floods, and that's great. But at the same time, Flint doesn't have clean water, and people are just kind of like, meh. So I don't know what's going on here.
If you look at a lot of companies, there's been, I guess, an awakening, because you got a lot of different companies now are stepping up to say, hey, I'm a chain of a restaurant, or I'm a bank, or I provide some type of professional service or goods.
Right.
And if you are a federal worker and you're impacted by this, just come on down and show your federal ID, and we're going to try and make some things happen.
Right.
I think that's America for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing, but you see it on television, and at the end of the day, I'm a pragmatist, and I'm a tactical pragmatist. I don't want to put too much faith in what I believe can be. Okay, I don't want to call anybody sentence employees. Let's just say, how many people can they actually affect? And I know some people go, oh, well, you said 20 people, and that is a good thing for those 20 people. But we're a nation of 320 million, right? If you can see 1% of the people who need it,
is 800,000. So if by some way that number can be affected, that's your foundation that you're looking at.
Yeah, I guess as long if you've got the hungry belly and you are one of the 20 people, I can totally see how that changed your life. But I think you wouldn't need to do all that if the government did. You know what I'm saying? I think we're talking about what great swimmers we are in the sinking, but I think the problem is we shouldn't have sank in the first place. You know what I mean? So I'm always trying to be clear on what the problem is, and the problem is, I mean, it's good that they're doing that, and they should be lauded for it, but I don't think we should get in the habit of lauding them too heavy, because then it takes the energy away from who you should blame for this problem, and this problem is made by our Congress and our president. Like I said earlier, I think it goes back to this not wanting to compromise. But people have been complaining about the border for some time, and this is what it's about. So I think, you've got people in camps, essentially hopping the border and being put in camps while you're telling them not to come. You got to do something about it. I don't know what's to be done about it, but they should solve it, and they cease to keep it around to fight about. And it should be solved, and the people are angry that it isn't solved. And in order to curry favor with who's the most right, and you know what I mean, we've got this government shutdown because he wants $5.5 billion for a border, and they don't want to give. Like the Democrats don't want to give, and people say it's impractical. But meanwhile, you are in government to lead us. Where's your leadership? You're not just there to be there. You know what I mean? And be flippant about being a congressman or a senator. Because your butt can be removed. But they rigged the thing so thoroughly, gerrymandering and such, and taking money from corporate interests and such, that you can't get them out of there. So, and I think this is part of the problem. This arrogance of station, and they're not. I mean, who am I going to vote for? I'm looking at the Democratic roster, and Gillibrand is in, and I'm just kind of like, okay. I'm not saying that you should. What did Bill Clinton say? Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. I just want someone to solve the problems. I don't want to fit a narrative. And I think this is where we are in the new modern America. People are becoming less eager to be stuck in parties because people want stuff done. So, yeah, I don't really know, other than that, what to say about this government shutdown. And I don't really know what to say about Steve King and his repeated ridiculousness. But, I like to watch C-SPAN, but if you watch C-SPAN, you see the question that these guys ask, and you wonder, why we haven't been invaded by Greenland, for God's sakes. But yeah, it's
We're talking with Shawn Armour. You can find him on Twitter, True_Armor. Before we wrap this up, I gotta say this much: we gotta get it together. And I'm hoping, hoping this is the weekend. They say cooler heads prevail. Whomever comes from out of the shadows, that this thing is brought to an end, because this is your government as a whole. Period.
Yeah.
This is what we've been seeing for years. This is the gridlock.
Yeah.
This is the reason why you have 330 million Americans and only 120 or 115 million vote.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
The other 2/3 are like, you know what? No thanks.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's what's so sad about it. That's what's so sad, that these comments are being made. The stalemate is being made. Do something for the dreamers. Yes. Immigration.
Yeah, who we don't even talk about anymore. I mean, nobody even.
We don't even talk about the dreamers anymore.
They're just a chip on the table. I mean, Congress does not solve problems for the American citizen.
More like crumbs on the table.
That's outrageous. Yeah.
More like crumbs on a table, and you just sweep it to the side. You're just like, that was just they were just a talking point. It's like, come on, both sides, get it together. Sit down.
Exactly.
Really talk this through.
There are real people behind these problems. Real people behind these, real concerns. People have to keep the lights on. People have children, for God's sakes. So,
I mean, I couldn't even imagine if I was in this type of situation.
I know, right? I was thinking about that. I couldn't imagine it either. And if you're out there listening, some of us feel you. Who don't know you, we feel you. So don't think that. I mean, we can't interact with you, but don't think that you're wrong in this. Or, I mean, for God's sake, they really do need to fix this thing for the American people. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to solve problems and move us forward. And now you're not paying the military, the Coast Guard, who are on watch, right? You can just it's outrageous that this is. I
mean, think about it.
We need something that first of all, they shouldn't be government shutdown. That's ridiculous. But if you have to have a government shutdown, there needs to be, for every 5 days it goes on, there needs to be something that pushes both sides together. So if 20 people are negotiating it, then in 5 days, 15 people are negotiating it. You know what I mean? And whoever the lesser of those people are, get kicked out. I'm not by seniority level, but keep the numbers even, Democrat, Republican, or what, because otherwise you could wait somebody out. But eventually, that thing should get so down to two people that when those two people are over their 5-day limit, the process starts again, and then two people have to be kicked out of Congress. You know what I mean? Have some seriousness behind this serious action. And they don't. They can sit there. I mean, they could theoretically sit in Congress till Christmas, and they won't suffer, anything out of it. They won't. But by then, how many people will have government jobs? They would have had to have gotten new jobs to pay the rent. So
I tell you this. I gotta jump in here and say this much. If you have term limits,
that's another argument.
We'll flush out a lot of this, because the 6-term senator who's been doing this for 32 years or whatever the number is, you're no good to me.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
telling you, it's that whole arrogance of station where they know that they're going to be there forever, unless they either quit or they get caught up in some scandals, not all scandals, some scandals, and if they get caught breaking the law. But otherwise, they can be there forever. You know, it's like, I was about to say something off color, but I won't say that. But it's like a permanent smell. You know, it's like a permanent smell in a room. And you're going, what is that? Like, sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think we need a little more transparency. I mean, I don't want to know state secrets. We should, but those guys up there should not just sit there forever and have no accomplishment. What is your signature legislative record other than being for all this stuff, or on the other side, being against all that stuff? I mean, we need education. I mean, who's going to run this place if you're dumbing down education? If we do stuff that doesn't, look, if we were a primal tribe, like across the I'm about to say tundra, let's call it a primeval forest, and we are a primal tribe. Instead of 300 million of us, let's say that there are 300 of us, right? Enough hunters, enough children, enough women, enough learning to fish and climb trees and all that. We're a primeval tribe of Americans, of all stripes. If we're that tribe, I feel like the chiefs in this tribe are telling the hunters to hunt with like one arrow and no strings on their bow. I feel like they're telling people to fish in the worst place. I don't feel like they're strengthening the tribe in any good way. I feel like they're comfortable, and every time something comes up, they come up with some randomness that we follow. I mean, we as the American tribe need to be here, because when you and I both pass into the next life, and all our listeners, no matter how old they are, which will happen to all of us, there has to be a generation to keep this place going. We took it from a generation which started with George Washington and those guys, and it's supposed to be this wheel, and this wheel seems to be slowing, and you do not want to be the generation that kills off your country with BS, excuse my language. You understand that? And this shutdown is enigmatic of that whole concept of, we're not even going to look after the hardworking men and women in the government just below us. You know what I mean? I mean, they're government employees. Yeah, they're civilians, but they are part of our apparatus. They keep this thing crisp and clean. And now rust and malaise is setting in, because the people atop those people are just knuckleheads, it feels like. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
All right.
Hey, I want to switch gears. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. We have Shawn Armour, True_Armor. You can follow him. He's a great follow on Twitter. That's TRU_ARMOR. I don't like to even talk about stuff like this, because we're not gossip columnists.
Right.
When I heard that stuff about Jeff Bezos, I was like, wait a minute.
Oh.
What in the world? How did you get put? I mean, I guess.
Look, man.
I guess for a lot of people, some marriages are just partnerships or business relationships, or.
Yeah, some people fall in love and then fall into a not a routine, because that sounds a little too dismal, but fall into a sort of pattern of understanding, you know what I mean? So,
okay.
And mind you, I'm a fan of love, as a bachelor that I am. I'm a fan of love. Your relationship is not supposed to be like someone else's relationship. You know what I mean? Your best male friend is not like your, you know, how can I phrase this? I've been tight with a dude who I considered like very close to me, and he considered me close to him too, right? So we were simpatico on this mindset. But he had another friend who they had sort of the same relationship, but I could not stand that other dude, right? So did he have two best friends, or was I sort of like idolizing him? Why? You know what I mean? So you get into these weird kind of like understanding of friendships. So he kept us. He was a linchpin in us getting to know each other, and you know, we're not that close, but we know each other, and we're polite to each other, and we like each other. And if he's not around, we can have a good time together. But if he were not in the picture, we would not have become friends. And it's that kind of thing. It's this idea of if you and your relationship, your woman, have and everybody's got different kind of energies, right? Have this understanding. Who's to say other than someone who likes, you know what I mean? You and I agree to this thing, but does that make sense?
Well,
what I'm getting a lot of is it's not what is it? It's not traditional. And when I run up against that, I'm always like, the hippie in me goes, traditional, man, really? What's traditional?
Well, I would just jump in and say, based on what you were saying, you said when you were, I mean, nowadays it's, I guess, politically correct to say you and your partner.
All right.
You know, and I just thought it was kind of crazy when I read this whole thing, and I read it on Twitter, and I guess he had to put out a response on Twitter before the Inquirer story dropped.
Right.
And I'm just like, man, this is messy. Because you think, oh, you know, people don't have problems. And it just
everybody's got problems. If you have a heartbeat, you've got problems. But,
right.
You know, he wouldn't be the first guy to, you know, to be taken by a lady. Or, I don't want to say taken, that sounds like, but to get caught up in, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, Biz.
Drama?
Matters of the heart. Let's call it that. But, I mean, but this is what we do, right? We hear the salacious story about, like, the super rich, and we're like, what? But, yeah, I don't know.
You know, and it's like you don't know what to say. You're like, everyone should be allowed to love whomever they want to love. Okay. I guess that's the correct thing to say. But stories like this, where you just like, wait a minute. You know, and to say also.
I know, but people, I mean, look, I know we don't like to use the word anymore because women have somehow managed to kill it. But women can seduce some dudes, right? I mean, people have fought wars over women, and, you know, women have managed to make grand maneuvers just on the art of seduction. I mean, there is a term, the art of seduction. So, and also the intelligence agencies, we have 16 of them, by the way, they have traps known as honeypots, right? This idea of lure you in, sing you songs, say I love you, excuse me, and all these kind of issues, all these tricks and tactics are used by corporate America. You know, if they can buy you off and send you away, they do that. They do everything but kill you, as far as I know. But yeah, all these art of war, whether it's, Sun Tzu or Machiavelli, whichever one you like to read, these art of war tactics are always, in the mind of these people because it protects their $100 billion nest egg. I mean, how much is Jeff Bezos worth? Maybe what he needed was somebody who would either keep their mouth shut or knew how to make sure he didn't get caught with another woman. But man, this whole thing looks very much like, I don't know, man. I've watched too much American television. I've got conspiracy theories in my head. Like if I were, but we've seen this before, right? Women would have their friends hit on their husbands to get divorces. Guys are stupid. Especially powerful guys who are so used to having their way. Once you, I'm going to use inappropriate language here, but once you dangle someone in front of them that they can't have, they can become obsessed with it. So I don't know, man. Love is fickle. The heart wants what it wants, and there's what is it? There's all fair in love and war. Is that it? So all these things can come crashing to each other at a point like a calculus, or an algebra equation, and he can be sitting in the heart of like the trifecta of everything. But yeah, I don't know. His wife, I hope she can get by on like $70 billion because it's a hard market out there.
Oh, but dude,
yeah.
As always. Hey, so tell me some of the projects that you're working on.
Well, I'm about to revamp my YouTube channel and trying to hit Twitter harder this year. I want to see if I can do what you're doing, Biz. Bring my message to the masses and see if the masses care. But other than that, I'll be on Twitter. I'll let everybody know. And I'll be praying for these guys who are shut out of work. Actually, they're not shut out of work, are they? Who have to go to work and not pick up a check for it.
Yeah, they're shut out of a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. But they got to go to work.
So, hey, I was told that the people from the IRS have to go in because of tax season.
Right.
The 28th is going to kick it off.
Right.
And because I'm sitting here saying, if no IRS is here, then your return that you're expecting, is going to be in La La Land. So,
that's the least of your worries.
Well, yeah.
If the government doesn't get any money in, there are no, apparatus to fly those jets and put uniforms on those men or give those men guns to watch the, and it's the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, of course, everybody can only think of the problem in a first-person perspective, like my life, and I totally get that. But if you have a wider view, if there is no flag to fly on that pole, you're Iraq. And you know how Iraq was. There was no food. There was no lights. There was gunmen in the streets because everything had broken down. You have to keep the money coming into your system. But that doesn't say that. This is why I don't believe in government shutdowns. I mean, we're the only ones who do it. It's a political ploy. It's arrogance at its height. But if they're going to do this ridiculous thing, they put the dagger in the heart of America. When I was a kid, I know we're wrapping up, but when I was a kid, I was always taught the only thing, and from the world's perspective of what America was, we were several things. One, we were a sleeping beast, right? So we're goofy and ridiculous and stupid, but if you attack us, we bring the heat. And the world saw this several times, and we've got a reputation for it. Another thing was the fact that I just lost my train of thought. But it's essentially we have to keep the lights on. You know what I mean? We have to keep the system up and running. Oh, I was saying the other thing was that if America falls, it'll be because of rot from the inside, right? So the idea that Europe can attack us is ridiculous and unlikely for several reasons. One, Europe cannot get their act together to organize an army against us because they hated each other for like 2,000 years, right? Russia, for all its landmass, 60% of it is unusable. So, you know, and they don't innovate like we innovate. The world would rather move to America than to move to Russia, or China. So we have all these super strong attractions to this great nation, right? Then you get everybody here, and you have every language, every culture that you can delve into to figure out how the rest of the world works. You don't have to send anybody over there. So, but there's a downside to that. If everybody is here, then their spies can easily slip into neighborhoods and communities. So you have to have everybody here on the same page. And once you take everybody off the same page, we become the Tower of Babel. You know the biblical story about the Tower of Babel, where everybody spoke the same language and had essentially the same culture, and they were building a tower. I'm sorry for laughing. Building a tower to heaven, and then God was like, you know what, y'all are too big for your britches, and like he gave them the Thanos snap, but instead of disappearing, they all spoke a different language. So now they couldn't work together, they couldn't build this tower, and they all sort of wandered off into the desert, right? And I always thought of that when it comes to this story about how America will disintegrate from within, because people can come here and use our open system against us. And the last thing you want is people not being on the watch. And if you want them on the watch, you have to pay them, and you have to pay them well. But the idea of not paying them at all is a non-starter. So yeah, I have fear about like what the next stage of America is going to be. But we can't keep letting it all slip into the mire, because then we will be the generation that killed off America, and shame on that generation, you know. And shame is a polite word I'm using, but yeah, definitely.
All right. Hey, Shawn, I want to thank you for joining, and we shall talk again in a week or so. Absolutely. And hopefully by the next time we talk,
I'll be up and running. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hopefully.
The shutdown will be over, and you will be talking about running for public office.
Yeah, exactly. President of Virginia. Is that an office?
Man, Shawn, you're a great follow, and it's always good to spend a few moments with you to talk. And
thanks for having me.
Podcast with you, and we shall talk again.
Absolutely.
Until next time, my friend.
Peace, man. Peace.